Hi, thank you everyone for being here. My name is Nahid Aftab. I work with King County Elections. I'm the language access and outreach supervisor there. And I live in the neighborhood. I live right over there. So happy to be here and connect with you all. I know Finn and the organization because we partner with them as part of our voter education fund. So Finn was at one of our cohort meetings. I talked about the presidential primary, and so I hope this is useful for some folks. Please interrupt with questions at any time, or if I'm talking too fast. But before we get into this, there's a couple of messaging that we are pushing out to everyone. We offer everything, ballot, voters pamphlet, communication, everything in 6 non-English languages. So that's Chinese, Korean, Russian, Somali, Spanish, and Vietnamese. You don't have to restore your rights once you are out of incarceration for a felony conviction. You can just re-register to vote. That was a new law in 2022. Folks still don't know that. And you can register to vote as a 16-year-old, which was also started in 2022. So if you have questions about that, come and see me. But mostly we're going to focus on the 2024 presidential election. You may be getting your ballots any minute now. And this happens once every 4 years. It is unique. And so we like to do some education around that. So here is, because it's confusing, here's some of the reasons why it's confusing. It is at a unique time. We don't normally have elections in March. It happens once every 4 years. It's unique in what we're selecting and who we are selecting it for, and why it's run differently. Things that did go through in February. August is the regular old primary that we always have, where we narrow down candidates for the November election. So this March thing only happens once every 4 years. And I totally hear voters saying, why are we having so many elections? If there's voter fatigue, people don't vote, and all of these, we hear you. We don't want to do 4 or 5 elections a year, so talk to your representatives if you don't want that many elections. We would be happy to do fewer elections, more on one ballot. I think makes it easier for lots of folks.
Saves money too.
Yes, it saves money too.
Great amount of money.
Yeah. So what is the presidential primary? I mean, we're talking about it a lot at a national level. States, counties, districts run it differently. It determines the presidential candidate. So it narrows down the current suite of candidates to 2. So Washington State, all of Washington State is nonpartisan. When you register to vote, you don't pick a party. And when you look at your voter's pamphlet, there isn't a party assigned to a candidate. They may say prefers Democratic Party or the Green Party, or prefers so-and-so, such and such party, but they are not affiliated formally in a party, because Washington in general is nonpartisan. But this is the political parties contracting with us to do the election and narrow down the candidates. So unlike a caucus system, this is how we do our caucus system. So essentially the political parties are paying us to do this, rather than the city or the state or the national government, okay? Think of it that way. We're kind of like contractors in this case. And then, so, unlike any other election, you have to pick a political party to vote, in this case, for your vote to count. You never do this at any other election in Washington State. And we keep a record for 60 days in case there's questions, we need to review things, there's a public disclosure request, lawsuits, etc. But then we get rid of those, and again, all the voters don't have a political party assigned to them. Okay, we just go back to the regular system. Okay, this is what's confusing to people because a lot of people feel strongly about not having a political party in Washington and being nonpartisan. It's kind of, there's a history behind that we won't go into, but that's a thing in Washington. So when people see this, they get confused. They think, oh man, I have to remember how I registered, what am I affiliated with. Those who are not, strongly in one camp or another. What if I'm third party? What if I don't want to be any of these? What if I'm independent, right? So you have to pick a party, and then whatever party you pick, that is the candidate you vote for. So let's say you picked Republican but voted for a Democratic candidate, it won't count. We'll have to send you a letter and tell you that either it didn't count or what was the confusion, what happened. Or if you don't pick this, it won't count. You have to do both, and it has to be the same. Why it is on the same piece of paper, I wish it could be 2 pieces of paper, but then that could cause other confusion. But right now, it's on 1 piece of paper, the way that the political parties want to run it. And then you sign it. This would be where the address is. You pick your person, and that's it. Now, in this election, we don't have, obviously, these are 3 names. Only the Democratic Party will have an uncommitted delegate, not the Republican one. So that's what's different. This is a sample one. That's what's different when it comes to your house. Any questions about this?
So what happens to those swing voters? I mean, if that's not counted, and then
Yeah.
especially if I go with the issue, why? I mean, how do we deal with that voting?
Yeah. So you mean like what if you haven't decided?
Yeah, I know that. If I'm not registered in specific, I don't want to go to any.
Yeah. So you don't have a party anyway. So all of Washington State, think of it this way: all of Washington State has no designation, doesn't belong to any camp. You're not swing. Everybody is a swing in Washington State until this happens. And if you want to participate in this,
that's what I'm referring to.
then you have to pick.
Oh.
If you don't want to participate in this, like if you don't care who the Democratic candidate is or the Republican candidate is, because for whatever reason, then you don't participate in this. You're communicating to the parties in this case. Okay? So let's say you don't want to communicate with the parties, you don't have to do this. Nor does it, go ahead.
I was just saying, right, so this is for like the presidential election.
This is
This is the primary.
This is the primary. This is in March.
So if you did want to vote like third party, you would do that at the time of the actual presidential election, not in this primary.
Exactly.
Okay, that's what I was
Exactly.
trying to confuse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See, and this confuses people because they see this and they're like, why are we voting this early for the president?
Yeah.
Where's our other candidates, etc., etc. This is just the primary. You're talking to the parties, and you're not talking to the parties that are not the 2 major parties. There's other parties out there. They just don't have the money or the capacity to add to this. Does that make sense? It's actually quite simple once you narrow it down and be like, this is just for this. Don't worry about it being anything bigger than that. Mm-hmm.
So if I normally vote Democratic, I can check the Republican box and then vote for somebody else besides the front runner in the Republican.
Yes.
Yes, all right.
Yeah, you totally can. But you can't check Republican and then vote for a Democratic Party person.
Right.
Yeah, you can totally do that. Now, one of the other things that people talk about is that by now, everything has been decided, right? In a way, for the parties, or at least that's what it looks like. So, that said, all of the people that you'll see on the voters pamphlet, they turned in their stuff before they pulled out of the race. So their deadline was quite a while ago because we have to put everything together. They have a deadline, we put everything together, and then they can't pull out. So things go to print, you get it, etc. Okay? You can still vote for somebody that's not in the running. Doesn't matter. Okay?
So this doesn't really have much bearing on like who turns up on the actual presidential ballot. And however you vote on this doesn't really matter, you can change it for the presidential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this will have a bearing in that the presidential candidate, like let's say nationwide Spruce is the lead democratically, and everybody assumes Spruce is going to win it, right? And then Washington comes back with Birch. And so Spruce's campaign might look at that and say, what are we doing wrong in Washington? Right? So you're telling the parties that you don't like their lead or something like that. And this might be your only chance to tell them that if you think that Spruce is going to go through anyway, right? So think of it strategically, even if you want to, for your talking to the parties.
That's why you can still vote for somebody that's already dropped out of the
Yeah,
race.
yeah.
What is an uncommitted delegate? Are you actually voting for a delegate, or are you actually voting for the person? Is this again a delegate?
A delegate in this case can then pick. So all I know is that then the delegate that goes. So what's happening? Like, Democratic Party is giving us so many delegates to go represent them at their major convention. Okay.
You're not actually voting directly for the person. You're voting for a delegate.
Right. The delegates are supposed to go with the person that we want.
I understand.
Right.
But you can make it an uncommitted delegate.
And you can tell one delegate to say, like, Washington doesn't like any of these people, and so then the delegate would be like, they don't like any of these people. Yeah, it really is like. So I'm not supposed to start this, but it's up to you how you want to participate in this. It's not going to impact how you are supposed to vote later, right? Like, this political party is not going to stick with you for the other primary or the general.
When the party gets together to select the person as the delegate that votes for that person.
Yes, yes. Kind of like the electoral college.
You're not directly voting for that person.
Yes, yes.
But you're voting to have a delegate decide. The uncommitted is you're uncommitted to a person.
Yes.
So the delegate in your area is going to vote for whoever, like, most of the people in their area want them to vote for.
Yes. Or the delegate could go in there and say,
The delegate is uncommitted.
yeah, the delegate could go in there and say, I can't commit to any of them because my community doesn't like any of these people.
And
They
how,
can vote. They can still vote for one person, but they're
Yeah,
committed to anybody.
yeah.
and how come that will only show up on the Democratic side but not on the
No,
Republican?
she said the opposite.
No, it's the Democratic that decided to have an uncommitted delegate this year, and the Republicans won't have it. It's their decision. It's something that the parties decide. So I don't know what reasoning
I
went
think
into that.
that's the whole issue. One man, one vote. I think just electoral college with all this delegate business that has to go. And I think, you can just go out and vote for whoever you think is carrying out your issue.
Yeah.
Whether it's locally or nationally, because whatever happens out there in the bigger, it's going to impact us in every single neighborhood. So that has to be.
Yeah.
We, just have to. Sometimes my vote should not be carried by somebody else because I think I'm not thinking like, or they are not thinking the way I think, or my issue is probably not the same as every single neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Aren't there states taking out the political parties out of the primaries, Nevada, Alaska?
It might be. I can't speak to that.
Where you can have two Democrats running for because they got the most votes, or two Republicans in a state because they got the most votes.
For the
So
presidential?
in the final election,
Got it.
you can have two from the same party, but the state gets to just pick the two most popular
Yeah,
candidates.
yeah.
That's,
We kind of do that for like our mayors and stuff, right? Like our mayors can be,
yeah, who was the candidate who, there's an advocate of that, he's trying to get that across the country, because then you would get, instead of a primary winning with, 12% of the vote,
yeah,
they get in say red districts, the primary gives them 12%, they're in, and because they're in a red state, they get elected.
yeah,
There's no moderates who get, people don't get a chance at moderates. Whereas
Mhm.
in Nevada and Alaska, apparently,
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
vote for the
Yeah.
two best people.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Is this information kept by district or county or is it
Yes.
just all Washington?
No, so the information of which party you picked is kept at the county level here. And it's private until somebody asks for it. But when someone asks for it, we have to give it to them because of the Freedom of Information Act. So this is when political parties can contact us and say, give me all the names of people that voted Democratic, and that's when they send you material. That's how they know.
Who is that? Is anyone who is asking, would they?
They would want to know.
They would
The
want to
parties,
know. I think it's hard for just anyone has the right to ask. Okay? But there's a process, there's paperwork, and I think they're putting a cost on it now to get to do all that work. But any citizenry can put in a public disclosure request. Yes.
But then we won't know, like, who now has
So-
access to ours.
So if we don't want to get mailings and calls,
Yeah.
we shouldn't participate in this at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is part of that. There's a certain number of things, that information that we have in elections that is open to public release, and this is one of those things. Your address is also one of those things. Your signature is not. And this is because if somebody says, I want to make sure everybody that Washington, King County says everybody in this district voted, okay? Or, these people voted in this school district. I'm going to go talk to every one of them, ask them how they voted, tally it up, and see if it matches their numbers. Like literally people could do that so they can check our work, right? They couldn't check our work now we don't keep how you voted, we don't know how you voted. So they would have to come to you and get that information or mail you stuff, right? Or whatever. But yes, that information is public.
Why is there not a non-disclosure on this?
We went through last year, so after the last presidential election, we got a PDR to disclose everything on the envelope, including signature. So send them a copy of the 1 million plus votes for the last presidential. It was the address and the person's name, address, and the person's signature. And we declined that, saying that signatures are personal identifying information. It went through the court system, and there was legislation. We had to pass legislation, and Washington passed legislation saying that signatures cannot be disclosed publicly. So all of this is a law, and we can't influence the law in this case, but we can sort of say, look, we're not comfortable disclosing people's signature. We took a stand on that, but a lot of this stuff is tricky for us to take a stand on.
But nothing here says that this is disclosable, so you're not telling the voter that you're going to be able to disclose what you're going to be able to disclose, right?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know until now that the things I put on the
Yeah.
ballot could be released out to, you know, the Democratic or Republican Party or whoever is interested in seeing that.
They can only get your party preference. They won't be able to get this.
Mm.
So this is not disclosable.
Right, but they're getting your name and they're getting your address.
They're getting this. Yeah.
Well, they're,
Yeah.
So the left side is what's on the outside of the envelope.
Envelope. Yeah,
And
you're
on
right.
the right side is inside of, you know, your ballot sheet. So yes, they can see everything that's on the outside of the
except your
envelope.
signature.
Except your signature.
Yeah, we would have to mark that signature. We would have to black out the signature.
And is that true for like every ballot, every election? That's the
No.
case? Just this one?
Well, just this one has the party designation. No other party has no other election has the party designation, except the next primary in 4 years.
Yeah. Okay.
But the fact that you're doing this on behalf of the parties, so you're a contractor.
Basically,
This is
yeah.
You're not even a government agency in this situation, you're a contractor.
Well, in a way, I mean, I'm using those words because in a way, we are also like, and in regular election, we are contracting with the city or with the school district or with the state government, right? Like, no matter what, we don't decide on how, on who becomes a candidate. We don't decide on any of those decisions. We are like outside of that system, and we just sort of nonpartisanly run the process. Does that make sense? I'm kind of using the word contract kind of to show that this is being done on behalf of the parties, not the actual national government, for example, right? Not the state government. Now, go ahead.
Do the parties pick up the expenses?
Yeah.
Yeah, they pay for this.
When
Mm-hmm.
did they start doing this? How long have we been doing this?
89? When was that video?
Declaring a
We
party though is newer, right? Declaring a party for this. I think that only started recently.
At least last year it was like this. The last 4 year.
Yeah.
And I think the one before that.
The 2020 election I think might have been one of the first where you had to choose the candidate
That is
party.
a good question. I don't know. So we had, okay, so we have a little video that we made that has a lot of this like information in it as well, and I'll play that. But your point about
Non-disclosure.
letting people know that this is disclosable is very important.
Is that a public disclosure request by anyone regardless of the outcome of the election? I mean,
Yeah.
unless in other words there's a dispute,
Yeah.
they want to know because there's a question and we thought we have a good outcome. How come that's not
Yeah.
reflected in a number?
Yeah, exactly. So that's
Is
why.
that disputable by or by the election department? Well, no, this doesn't have anything to do with the election outcome, so we can't do it. Is there a way that can be argued?
I suppose so, but that is not for
Because I don't want
us
to
to
think this is
decide.
request as a marketable kind of private market,
Yeah.
benefits to have that kind of disclosure, and then so is there a way that this is
Oh,
not
so like
related to
us
the-
saying you're Amazon, I'm not going to give it to you,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's not related to the election.
Yeah.
What
That
you're
is a
running,
good
and then
question.
you have to have a guidelines from each party or from each.
In a public disclosure request for any public agency, typically you have to also sign something that says you will not use information for commercial purposes.
Yeah.
That's included. So if you wanted to use it because you wanted to use that information to follow up to make sure people are tracking their ballot, or if their signature was contested, to do it on like for voter education and outreach, like for us as a nonprofit, that's a good use of the information.
Yeah.
But if I were to use it because I'm a big corporation and I want to market to these people, you actually have to sign and say that you swear that you won't use this for marketing purposes, because I want to send out marketing postcards to people that I think might like my pillow because you or whatever the
What
product.
the parties are gonna do with this, no?
But they're not selling anything. They're doing it for outreach,
fundraising. They're
right?
Yeah.
They're gonna hit people up for fundraising.
Yeah. So it is for their benefit, but at least at our level, as in like, not the elections level. This is all decided. The Freedom of Information Act is at a different level, but for that level, they don't want this to be used for commercial gain, right? So you do attest to that piece of it. And you're not supposed to sell this information. So like once you have it, let's say you're the Democratic Party, once you have it, then you're not supposed to sell it, right? So those things those checks and balances were thought of. Yes. That said, the reason we have it and we have to give it is because we are transparent and we need to be able to demonstrate that we are doing this like right. So, and unless people can go to the voter, then how do you know? Because we don't, this right here has no voter information in it. So there's no way we can go back. We can go back and recount the ballots and see if our count was right, but we can't know who voted that way. So this is the only piece of information that tells people who voted.
So the referring point is a number, correct? The envelope, which has
The
individual
envelope
voter
has individual voter information.
connecting to what was voted for. How do you come back and then verify A vote was this and then B vote was this? That has to be a number, correct?
There is a number on the
To
envelope.
tie the two together.
Yes. So the envelope has the information for the party that ties it to the person,
Yeah.
but not this. So we have to check whether when you voted Democratic, you also voted here, Democratic. So it does stay together for a little bit, but then we don't know which Democratic you voted for. Then it gets, once we check that you did this part, then the ballot gets separated from the
And then
envelope.
there's no way to put
You
back.
can't put back.
Okay, so that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the number, the code in the top over there, that the ballots have, that's a designation of your district. So like we know that you live in such and such school district, and if that school district
Then
has
that
a
will be
ballot,
voting.
then it'll be printed on here. But that is not a personal code, that's a geographic code.
Nahid, what if I get a challenge or I get an update that says, hey, your party didn't match the way you voted? Is that like a signature challenge? Do I have an opportunity then to respond? Because if I challenge it and say, hey, I don't think that's right, I know I did this right, at that point, the two are already separated and there's no way to audit that, right? Or are those put aside if there's a
Those are
problem?
put aside.
Okay, so they
Those
can
are
go
put
back and
aside.
review it again.
Yeah.
And do I have an opportunity to respond and correct it, like a signature challenge?
They will send you a letter explaining that it is not being counted for X reason.
Okay.
And then you'll have like steps. So for example, it's not being counted because you didn't sign it. Or then this just goes through the regular signature update stuff, signature curing process. I don't actually know what happens if you don't pick, like that part I don't know. Like let's say you say, oh, I forgot to pick this or I forgot to pick that. So it's just case dependent then, and we've got like a big book of rules that people go through for every one of them. But yeah.
Well, we heard a lot about signature challenges and how there was a question about whether it was equitable and who was
Yes.
getting challenged. Are there new rules or new options for folks that want to make sure their signature gets counted?
Yes, thank you for that question. So signature challenges is when we have a database of signature, either because you filled out a voter registration form and you signed it, or signed up online and we got your driver's license signature. Let's say you vote and your signature is different than what we have in the system. Every signature gets looked at by a trained human being. So if there's 1 million ballots, 1 million signatures will get looked at. If they don't match, you get a letter saying it's not matching. Then you can send a form, like sign it and etc. and then what's called cure your signature. We have a process where you can update your signature. Actually, there's multiple processes, but one of them is there's a form you can print online or I can get to folks where you sign 3 ways that you normally sign, and then we have 3 examples of your signature. So that's one way to update your signature, or you can update it today with me by just signing the form again, giving us your information, then we'll add another signature to your file of signatures, and then you'll have multiple signatures on file. And the people that miss the signatures the most are the very young, because they're not used to signing, those who have lost mobility in their hand, and then folks that are used to signing their names in other languages, and then there's their English signature, or they might do something a little different. So there is an equity issue there.
Yeah, we did receive a couple of letters last couple of years now also, but I think they offered them to go ahead and verify the identity and then kind of so that if they wanted the vote to be counted, they offer the online kind of.
Yeah.
Some people, they may be Washington State resident and maybe moving out of the state for a job, but not permanently.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do it from where they are and just
Yeah.
send the email.
That's a new pilot that we just, yeah. So.
One of the things, it seems to me as first part of declaring which party you're in, that information is what the parties are asking for. Whereas when you vote, we didn't have it. Let's say you didn't declare a party, but you just voted either Democratic or Republican, you'd have the split over there. Why do we have to have this associated with our name on this side? Because we will choose, when we choose the party, this other side is just information that we're giving gratis to
Yep.
these parties. They would get the breakdown of the number of people that are voting Democratic and voting Republican. And again, we wouldn't be targeted then with this disclosure thing to try to find out who we are.
Now, I think this is a leftover of the system where you declare what party you are when you register to vote, and then you're like a card-carrying member of the party.
Yeah, I mean, but
And so
here,
they want that,
maybe we should tell the parties that they shouldn't have that.
So that, like, you couldn't go into a caucus, for example, if you were part of a different party, right? Like, imagine this was happening in person, and you're
But
a
it's
card-carrying
not happening in
member.
person, it's
No,
not
I know. This is like a
Yeah, it's not.
iteration. Yeah.
If I'm paying like a ton of money for this, I want to make sure that there's something that's going to dissuade somebody from just being a spoiler, right? Because if there's no,
That's not that.
if you can totally anonymously like change your party just to mess with the other party, then if I'm paying for this, I don't want that. Like, I want to make sure that there's something that's going to dissuade you from doing it, because now I know that now you have to register, you're going to get my flyers now. You know?
You can, in a primary, vote in the Republican Party side, and then in the general election, vote for the Democratic candidate.
But the hitch, though, is that you're disclosable now that you've put
Yes,
Republican.
but it's
So if you
not
want,
illegal to do that.
it's
No,
not
it is
illegal,
not
but
to do that.
people
then
might
you're
not
just
wanna
gonna
do
get
it.
a lot of flyers and fundraising requests from. Yeah, go ahead.
On the Washington government site, whatever,
Uh-huh.
it does say the presidential primary was first created in 1989 through a citizens' initiative to the legislature to include more voters in the process.
Yeah.
So this was something that citizens
Yes.
wanted the parties to be doing.
Yes. So that it's a system that is already going to everybody, right? Keep going, sorry.
Well, just like learning about it now, it seems like, well, I don't really care to give them my information. Like, this is not something maybe I actually want or care to vote in and participate in. So I'm trying to think like, okay, well, why would I want to then? And then seeing this, it's like, okay, citizens fought to be able to
Yeah.
have this as a ballot that we voted on. So
Yeah.
kind of like, what is our benefit in giving
Keeping
this
up.
information
Yeah.
and participating in this ballot? I'm not sure.
When Nahid said like we were talking to the parties, it's like I know a lot of people feel really strongly how like parties aren't doing what the people want.
Yeah.
So it is like an opportunity for us to really say, hey, no, like you guys are doing this all wrong, or you're doing it all right,
Yeah.
right?
But there's also no, oh, so I guess there is a small thing we could write in somebody's name if
Yeah.
there aren't, because even, I mean, what, who for Democratic Party, do we know who all is gonna be on the ballot? It's just gonna be Biden?
Nope, there's 3.
No, there's more. Have you received the voters pamphlet, the green thing, a little?
Not yet, I
Green.
don't think so.
We just got it 2 days ago.
Okay.
In our mailbox.
Yeah.
So it might be in your mail. There's multiple candidates in there
Okay,
for each party, yeah, because they filed before they pulled out.
yeah. And we can write,
You can write a
write a
name in
person
there.
in.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with the mail, voting by mail is greater accessibility, right? And having your voice heard through the mail. And then the party thing is to have, like people not messing with them, right? Somebody who's not invested in it picking someone. So but it's still doable given the system we have. So, yeah, I hear you. It is not a perfect system.
Well, you don't have to vote in the primary to vote in the election.
No. And the other thing is that you don't have to, in Washington, you don't have to fill out the whole ballot for your vote to count. So let's say you are really passionate about the school district, and you know all about the school district, but you know nothing about the hospital district that is on your ballot, and you don't want to vote the wrong way. You can vote just the school district and not fill out the other part, right? It still counts. That vote for the school district counts. So you have to be not voting for a while before you go into inactive mode, like 2 presidentials or something, or so.
Do you know, is this, I mean, most states do a primary, yeah.
Every state does
Every
some
state does
kind of,
primary.
yeah.
And it's the same situation.
No, states can do it totally different. I mean, Iowa caucusing, we hear stuff on the news, right? And then the gentleman behind you was saying like Alaska and them are to do it totally differently.
Caucus and elections. But it's a little confusing.
Yeah, yeah.
So the general theme,
Some places you have to show up in person, even if it's a stormy night. Idaho, there was like 1 year there was a whole thing around that.
but the general theme of a presidential primary is the same through the states.
Yes. So the goal is to narrow down the candidates.
But it's a party thing.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
this is only
between
2
the
parties.
parties.
There are other parties, so they're
Yeah.
not even represented here.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
But they will be represented in the general,
Right.
assuming they get that far, right? And they do their paperwork at that point.
This is great education.
I'm glad because it's tricky.
I gotta start spreading the word. Let people know.
I think the 2-party system in this society it makes, with that big money running behind it, and then we are not actively participating, who and who, not educating ourselves in what we vote for. At the end of the day, we just, let's just do it, and that giving them more weapon to do what they do. So
I joined elections, but almost 3 years ago now. It is complicated to do this and do it right. So, yeah.
If anybody wants to help do voter education work, West Hill
Yeah.
Community Association could use some volunteers.
Yes.
Throwing that out there for folks that have the bug now.
Should I play the little video we have? It's up on YouTube. You can share it on your social media. and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Can I ask what's August then? What do we do in August?
Oh, August is everything else like every other year. So it is your state representatives, it's going to be mostly state decisions. There's going to be some important legislations coming up. So pay attention to that. It'll be interesting. And yeah, it's just a regular old, back to the old system. You don't have to pick a party, nothing. This is the only one.
And we won't see the presidential question come up again until November.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you won't.
And that's the final. That's the big one.
That's the big one. Yeah. Okay, so are you gonna work?
You know if in the presidential election, you have to pick a party before you vote there too?
No, you don't.
Okay.
You don't. I'm not online. It's not gonna work. Let's see. Did I embed it in here?
Oh, the Wi-Fi should be free. Click on the little globy guy, and then it's KCLS wireless. Yep, should connect right away.
So we do have, those of you who want to do more voter education, we have a whole YouTube channel. This is not it. That has all kinds of information in it, including this one.
How does the presidential primary work in Washington? Every 4 years, King County Elections Department administers the presidential primary election on behalf of the major political parties. In a presidential primary election, voters choose the candidates for president that will appear on the ballot in November. This year, the presidential primary election is on March 12th. In Washington, presidential primaries are the only elections when voters must choose a political party. You will receive a ballot that will look different than the usual ballot. It will ask you to pick a party on the envelope. This only applies to a presidential primary election. Once you've chosen your party, you can vote for a candidate. It is very important that you only mark the side of the ballot that matches the party you chose. Do not write a joke name or comment on the blank write-in line of the opposite party. Writing on the write-in line, even if it's not a real name, counts as vote in Washington state. If you want your vote to count, you must pick a party, and the candidate you choose must belong to the party that you choose. Your party choice is only required for the presidential primary election. You may vote for any candidate in any party in all other elections. Your party choice will be removed from your voter record 60 days after the presidential primary election is certified. Good to know, Washington has been holding presidential primary elections the same way since 1989.
I noticed a grammatical mistake on that after seeing it so many times. So there's lots of other good information on the YouTube channel that we have. And we have things in other languages, and yeah. And we have playlists in specific languages also for you to focus if you're part of a language community. And that's all I have.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
From the past practice, going back to that public disclosure,
Mm-hmm.
is there any moment in the history that election went to court to challenge the public disclosure request from anybody?
It was the signature. It was the last presidential. They wanted I don't know if it got all the way up to the courts. I don't know, it was before my time, but they declined to disclose the signatures. Because
of the law that is the Washington state that requires that is not mandated.
Right. So it's complicated because when the Freedom of Information Act was they didn't define things very strictly, right? So personal identifying information like your social security number is not disclosable, right? But then is your birthday personally identifiable? What about your genetic makeup? What about your address? What about et cetera, et cetera? So in this case, we had to go to not just court, but pass legislation that says signatures are personally identifiable information, so it can't be disclosed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just, you know, because I know that you're serving whoever you contract out as, I mean, you know, the question earlier, like you, King County, you know, agency, abide by the rules of the King County. And
Yes.
at the same time, when you go out and providing that service as public service, what the King County is allowing you, but at the same time, there has to be some rules how you conduct
Yeah.
your service to that specific, whether it's school district, whether it's the party, whether it's.
Oh yeah, there's lots of little rules and things that we have to follow. And then I don't know if anyone was keeping track of the school district thing last month. That was a whole nother thing where it was like, okay, so who decides the rules, right, in this case? But yes, there's lots of rules that we abide by. There's lots of rules that the districts and the cities abide by. And then every once in a while there's a crack in there, and then you have to decide how to change things to make it more clear. Yeah.
How do you educate the public? Like you're King County,
Mhm.
most of the public might think, oh, you're my, you know, you're funded by my tax money,
Yeah.
and then you have to do this way, that way. How do you educate the public that what you do has different things? And, 'cause
Yeah. So that's why I'm here. So one of our
Good
we have
question.
multiple programs. One of them is the Voter Education Fund, where we give grants to community organizations like West Hill Community Association, and they're tiny amounts of money that then they go out and do the voter outreach and voter education. Who we give that money to has to be nonpartisan. So they can't tell you how to vote. They can tell like who to vote for. They can tell you about the process, okay? Just like us. So that's one. Then we have a civic education system, a pilot program where we go to high schools. That is the first year we started. Love to talk to people who are associated with high schools around that. That's actually going really well. We have a vote in jail and juvenile detention voting education program. If you have connections there, happy to connect with you on that to get inside. And then we are connecting with libraries. We have a social media. So like this video was created by the outreach team, not by the communications team. So we have two arms. There's a communications arm of things that, you know, that does education and communicates and sort of connects with people. And then we do more in-depth communication / teaching and educating. What else do we do? We've got brochures and stuff. We will come and talk to your community. Yeah, tabling, whatever you want.
yeah, I think it would be nice to make that clear in a general sense, because
Yeah.
I think, you know, even though we're not dealing with the nitty-gritty, when you're here, you know, who you're representing, and then if something happens, are you liable as an employee of King County, or
Oh, yeah.
as a contractor of that, you know, whoever is serving? And I wonder if you sign a separate agreement beside the King County as an employee, and then also a different, just.
Oh,
you know,
I'm here as an employee. So today I'm here as an employee. Yeah.
But generally, do you have a different kind of responsibility and then guidelines saying, you know, when you do this, especially with the primary
Yeah.
or the political parties, one of that, as a King County employee, King County is making you to sign a different kind of.
We have to sign an oath before every election that we are going to be nonpartisan and all of that. So we do that and then if I do any sort of campaigning or anything during my work hours, representing King County. If I do any I will be fired. So there is that piece of it. It is an absolute no-no. But yeah, so we do sign an oath every election. We re-sign that oath saying that we're nonpartisan in working this election. And then here, that's the kind of thing. I always welcome people's feedback, like the point you made about the letting people know that it is disclosable. I know it is, and I hadn't even thought about that.
That's part
So
of the public education.
that's part of the public education. Now I will take that back to the office because we debrief and discuss everything after every election. So I will take that back. I heard it from the community. This is what they're saying. They're very concerned, even when we had our VEF meeting, about that part of it. What can we do about this to make it more clear? And then in 4 years, hopefully it'll be done differently.
It might be something that you could put a footnote somewhere in the
Yeah,
ballot
exactly.
and saying that,
Yeah.
like in the credit company or anybody saying, okay, this is what it is. And
Yeah.
it might be-
That's why we insisted on having it in the main educational video when we were doing it for our VEF partners, because that's why we made this video. But yeah, it needs to be maybe more publicized out there, like that people don't know. I just feel like when people do anything now, we should sort of suspect that someone can get at our information, right? So, but
There's a lot more about all of us online already
Yeah.
than you can get from King County elections.
yeah.
Well, and also that in 1989 when they created us, there was less,
Oh yeah.
identity theft.
Oh, all kinds of things.
We have a
right?
whole profile of each of us and our shopping habits, and not just our politics, but yeah.
But your signature is really important.
Yeah, that is not disclosable.
Yeah.
So that took a lot of
Today's
work.
technology, I mean, sometimes when I don't like to, bank on the line,
Yeah.
a lot of things with my phone. If I happen to fill out some forms, before even I close my system, I'm already receiving
I know.
multiple
Me
emails,
too.
and that's telling me
Yeah.
everybody's watching
Every-
every time you touch the keyboard. I mean, this is how the public education part, which is sensitive, and then that's breaching out the personal
Yeah.
information loophole. I think that's you have to take it serious, and then
Yeah.
educate the public and say, don't give up your
Yeah.
information, unless and otherwise this is a must. I mean, sometimes that's why the election is always a low turnout, because people have just a lot of questions, fear, and that's
Yeah, or apathy, or
yeah.
you're going home. Okay. See ya.
So thank you for
Of
coming
course.
by, and
Of course.
hopefully I will volunteer.
Yeah, we'll run into each other.
Yeah.
You should. Oh, I was gonna tell everybody. We're gonna hire a bunch of temporary people, and we love for these big elections, because we go from 30% turnout to 90% turnout, hopefully. So retired folks are some of our main supporters in that way. They come and work for a chunk of time, and then we don't use volunteers because of security stuff. So we will hire folks for one day to help us close boxes, but they have to go through training another day, learn about all the security stuff, and then they can close boxes. So if you're interested,
So you guys don't take any volunteers?
no, not anymore.
Actually, in King County, they always ask if you volunteer in the email, so they don't do it anymore.
That is only for King County employees.
Oh, okay, for the King County.
Yeah, because
Okay.
you're in the
So
system,
we always
and
get
we
that
can, and then
email.
we still train you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Only they can
On the
volunteer.
election nights, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to volunteer, you join us, and we do the fun part where we hand out candy
How
and
much
stickers
fun is that?
and high fives. No training. Are you good at giving high fives? That's the question.
Hmm?
If you give high fives well, that's our main question, and then you pass the test, and you're part of the team. We just make it fun. That's what we do. But all right. Thank you so much, Nahid. What is the website if folks want to get more information, check if they're registered?
Yes. So,
5 years ago.
so what I do actually, the easiest way is to just do King County Elections and there is a lot of information on our website, like a ton. So it's sometimes it can be hard to find. This My Voter Information shows your ad, tells you have to sign in, tells you if you're registered, if you're not, how to register, and then you can see like what your address is, so you can update it, etc. This is, you can learn if your ballot is on its way. We have a text alert system so that you can track your ballot and know where it is at. And then there's just a lot more information on our website. So it is not pretty right now because we're changing websites. It is very unpretty. Yeah, you can find your districts, you can look at old data, you can contact us. Yeah. You
So
can-
when you're moving from a district to district, do you have to do a separate kind of form that to show? So you,
No,
as
we
long
track
as
it.
you,
As
if
long
you're
as you
within the King
update
County-
your system, yeah.
Okay, the system would probably
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
you know, okay.
Yeah.
Because there's a levy issues that, you know.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. If you move out of county,
Yeah,
you need
that's
to
a separate,
re-register.
Thank you, Nahid.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.